Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. Ramping up water restrictions.
Consider taking shorter showers. Only do full loads of dishes and laundry.
The very real possibility of drought for some BC communities. Plus, retailers step up surveillance.
You're experiencing a problem with theft. Maybe you need to rethink whether or not self-checkout is right for your location or your store.
Why shoppers are pushing back. And how a Chilliwack dairy farm is turning waste into valuable fuel.
It's renewable energy and it's nutrients that can go back to the soil.
The future of sustainable farming.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Anita Bathe. A warning to people across the province tonight as we face severe drought levels. The BC government is asking everyone to do their part to conserve water with a state of emergency now declared in one region. Anita Bathe has our top story.
After a weekend of more lightning-caused fires, firefighting resources are being stretched in Northeast BC, Prince George and Caribou fire centres. Communities are asking for more help as worries grow over dry conditions. And officials say they're worried people will put themselves in harm's way trying to help.
Really are concerned about safety. We know that that's the number one priority, and we don't want people going out there not supervised and putting themselves in danger. But, we need to figure this out.
There are an estimated 312 active wildfires across the province, with 18 of them declared fires of note. The BC government declared a state of emergency for the Stikine region, which is unincorporated. Lightning lit up the skies over the weekend, and with little accompanying rain, it sparked fires on the tinder-dry ground. And BC Wildfire Service says more lightning strikes and wildfire starts are expected in the coming days.
Question of this being a turning point for the season. I think all indications are that we will be fighting these fires, as well as additional starts we may pick up in the next few days and obviously the next few weeks for the remainder of the summer.
Chapman says more resources and international firefighters have been requested. But with an already active fire season Canada-wide, those fire crews are already spread thin. Fire is but one concern, drought is another. BC residents are being asked to practice water reduction as large parts of the province are already at level 4 drought conditions, with level 5 being the highest.
Consider taking shorter showers. Only do full loads of dishes and laundry. Water your lawn sparingly.
Emergency Management and Climate Readiness Minister Bowen Ma says it might be a few weeks before people are impacted, but warns conditions are serious.
We're reaching out to communities to begin discussing more measures. The primary areas of concern at this time are the Northeast, as well as the Lower Mainland and the island.
She says 17 out of 34 water basins are sitting at level 4, marked in red on this map. Ma says she will be providing a more detailed update on drought conditions later this week. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
For a bit more perspective, let's bring in meteorologist Russ Lacate. Russ, how dry has it actually been this spring and summer?
Anita, around here, it has been exceedingly dry. And it's funny because we locally in Metro Vancouver, we haven't really had to talk about a lot of wildfire smoke. We haven't seen much smoke over the island. But it is the potential for additional wildfires to form, which has really caught our attention. Have a look at your latest forest fire danger rating map from the province. This was issued this afternoon. Again, much of the south coast, the Lower Mainland, the local mountains, Whistler and Squamish, the entirety of Vancouver Island is in the extreme category. So although most of the fire activity has been over the northeast and parts of the interior, we really have to be extremely cautious. Our rainfall totals in Metro Vancouver right now are running 75% below average for the May, June, and first half of July period. So it's been exceedingly dry, to be sure. Here's your current satellite imagery and analyses here showing you how much lightning activity, again, has been largely pulling up across parts of the interior. We have a split flow offshore. There's no real major weather maker here, but but the air mass convection, a lot of heating going on, and of course, daytime convection has brought up all those thunderstorms. Tomorrow, I don't know if it's going to be quite the same story, which is good. Here's your current list of weather warnings and bulletins that we're keeping track of. Of course, the Smoky Skies Bulletin from the Northeast has really expanded with the additional forest fire activity from over the weekend and from today. Lots of smoky skies for the Northeast and the neighboring regions. We're currently watching some severe thunderstorm watches and warnings for the central interior and parts of the Peace as well. What about the lower mainland? Well, there's no real crazy weather going on here. We had a lot of cloud today, a fresh breeze. Look at our temperatures. We barely touched the 20-degree mark for a short spell earlier this afternoon. And for tomorrow, it is almost an encore performance. I really do expect a lot of cloud cover in the morning. Possibly some sprinkles in the outlying areas and over higher terrain, not really in Greater Vancouver, but a breezy day, morning cloud, afternoon sun, and maybe in the low 20s.
Yeah, I gotta say, it was pretty chilly today, Russ.
It was, I know. I was underdressed.
Thank you. At the trial today for the man accused of killing a 13-year-old girl in Burnaby, cell phone records were presented. They show that calls made from Ibrahim Ali's device were picked up by a cell tower where the victim's body was found. Ali's phone was taken by police the day he was arrested in July of 2017. Bell Mobility was ordered to release the phone records associated with the number. It's not clear how many towers Bell has in Burnaby or where exactly the calls came from, but a company employee tested that generally the closest tower to a phone tends to be picked up. Prosecutors allege Ali sexually assaulted and strangled the teenage girl in Central Park that night. They say cell phone records support their case. Ali has pleaded not guilty. Well, federal Green Party leader Elizabeth May is now at home recovering after being hospitalized in Saanich for fatigue. Her husband says it's because of a, quote, idiotic parliamentary schedule. The House of Commons sitting times were extended in June to pass government bills and clear tasks before the 3-month recess. May will be recovering at home for another week before resuming her summer duties. To Chilliwack now, where a dairy farmer is turning waste into valuable fuel. He's producing natural gas from manure to heat homes. Radio Canada's Camille Vernet is looking at why.
For this farmer, manure is much more than just waste.
That's money. It's renewable energy, and it's nutrients that can go back to the soil. We realized that we needed to take what was waste and turn it into something that is a product or of benefit.
Betting everything on this $40 million biomethanization plant made it possible.
The project is quite a big risk in a lot of ways, but we felt that from the long-term sustainability of the farm and from an environmental perspective in the long term, we needed to do something.
It all happens in these large containers where bacteria breaks down a mixture of manure and organic waste. The resulting methane, naturally produced, is captured and transformed into renewable natural gas. But what seems like a simple process took years of work.
All our thought and all our effort into this project for 2 years of construction, and it's really amazing to see it now coming together.
The farm's main source of income comes from selling this gas to FortisBC.
We signed 20-year contracts, and that gives the farmer the security needed to go and get financing to build the facility.
Farmers are not the only one doing this. At the Surrey Biofuel facility, organic waste from all over Metro Vancouver is also transformed into gas. Even trucks can be powered by this fuel.
This year we expect to have about 5 million gigajoules, and that's about 2.5–3% of our annual throughput on our system.
One of the main barriers, complex and costly infrastructures, says the scientist.
It's not a windfall from heaven. It takes a lot of hard work, but with that, it's a tremendous resource.
On the farm, this part of the plant is still under construction. It will soon use what's left from the process to produce fertilizer.
You've taken care of some of your waste, you've created energy out of a renewable resource, and you've preserved the nutrients in a usable way so that you can take them and cycle them around one more time.
George Dick believes that agriculture can play a big part in mitigating greenhouse gas emissions.
We've started down the path as far as the methane collection from manure. There's a few other things that we can do, and I think as we go along, I think dairying has a big part to play.
He's determined to transition to a more sustainable way to farm. Camille Vernet, CBC News, Chilliwack.
With prices rising in this province, shoplifting has gone up too. And while self-checkout stations save time, experts say they are making the problem worse for many stores. As Sophia Harris tells us, some customers are pushing back on some methods to address the problem.
Brian Simpson found a recent trip to Canadian Tire unsettling. After paying for his items at self-checkout, he says a security guard blocked him from leaving and demanded to see his receipt.
I don't like that they're painting us all with the same brush, that they're assuming that everyone who uses self-checkout is going to steal.
Retailers like Canadian Tire, Walmart, and Loblaw sometimes do receipt checks, so CBC News asked them if self-checkout theft is behind it. Those retailers didn't directly address the question, so we consulted the experts.
These systems are laden with opportunity potentially for people to abuse them.
UK criminologist Adrian Beck studies self-checkout theft. He says it's a growing problem because of the expansion of self-checkouts.
You've got far more customers going through who think, hey, you know what, I can take advantage of the opportunities that these systems present for me to get something for free.
Beck recently surveyed 93 retailers across the globe. They estimated that as much as 23% of their store losses were due to a combination of customer error and theft at self-checkout. This video parodies one popular trick thieves use, scanning only some of their items.
So they'll scan the oranges there, but they'll put the steak in the bag. And
this store investigator says he frequently catches shoppers in the act.
Some of them say, oh, I forgot, or I scanned, but I just didn't realize it didn't come up. They'll always have an excuse.
About 50% is theft.
Beck says receipt checks are one way retailers are combating the problem.
They are trying to amplify the sense of risk of being caught.
But receipt checks are getting pushback from shoppers.
If you're experiencing a problem with theft, maybe you need to rethink whether or not self-checkout is right for your location or your store.
But Beck says self-checkouts are here to stay, as long as the savings in labor costs are higher than self-checkout losses. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
A social services group in BC is marking 50 years of supporting newcomers to Canada. Over the weekend, Success raised upwards of $300,000 at an anniversary fundraiser. As Benit Brach reports, organizers say the money is crucial for helping new British Columbians.
Each step and smile from the starting line, more moments to add to half a century of celebrating and supporting new British Columbians.
It started when a large number of immigrants coming in from Asia. That was in the early 70s. So the immigrants were quite lost. And then we realized that, they have so much potential of these immigrants coming in to help to build this country.
Decades later, supporters reflect on what the organization has turned into. Dozens of programs like counseling and crisis support, digital skills for job seekers to affordable housing projects servicing thousands of clients from more than 150 countries, and throwing fundraisers like this to support their efforts. For Mariel Kabig, the help started right when she landed in Canada from the Philippines.
It means a lot for me. I want to be successful, that's why.
She landed in Canada just about 2 years ago. Kabig says she's learning English and working in food service thanks to the program.
If you don't have this kind of program, it's hard.
More people are choosing to call BC their next home. The province is expected to welcome around 217,000 new permanent residents in the next 2 years, and that's nearly double average immigration levels. Another reason why Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim says programs like Success are key to helping newcomers.
Being the son of immigrants, I remember, seeing my parents struggle coming here when programs that Success offers weren't available. And if they just had those programs, I know they would have had a leg up. But if we don't have support systems to help people transition into Canada, it's going to be really problematic.
Success is seeing growing demand for its services. 5 years ago, it saw about 65,500 clients. Now, organizers say it has served more than 76,000 in the last year alone.
Supporting people's mental health, as many of the refugees or arrivals, they come from the war-torn country, and we certainly wanted to be taking a holistic approach to support them.
Another reason why organizers say more money is needed to help kickstart new beginnings for the next 50 years. Benit Brach, CBC News, Vancouver.
The CBC TV series The Beachcombers could be returning to the airwaves. A local team has assembled to reimagine it and as an animated series. We spoke to them about why the show still matters and what fresh ideas they might have.
I saw a poster on the wall of all the characters, and it just came to me, why not Beachcombers animated? Lately, our Bob's Burgers and, King of the Hill is being rebooted. Shot my daughter a picture of the poster, and I said, do you think you can draw these guys in a King of the Hill kind of style? Sent some drawings back that pretty much nailed it. And then I phoned an old colleague. He knew the creators. And so it took him about, to hunt everybody down about 4 or 5 months. We got the rights, and then how do we develop this? And of course, I thought of my great friends at Slap Happy. So I said, hey, you guys, what do you think of this? And they jumped at the opportunity to develop it further.
The legacy proves that these characters have legs. You take the characters, which are already so well realized and so full of potential, and you go, okay, how do these characters exist in this new world today? And that was part of a story driver for us, was imagining someone like Nick or Relic trying to function in this new modern world. Stay true to what the Beachcombers was, with its warm humor and its adventurous stories, but also bring it into the new modern way of telling stories in this animated medium.
And, reintroducing them to people who knew the series, and then, introducing them to the first time to a whole new generation of people who I think will appreciate these characters that were so beloved here in Canada and around the world, actually.
For so long.
Yeah.
We've got a pilot script written by Rick Drew and Daryl Dennis, which did an amazing job of, again, staying true to the series, but also modernizing it. So we'll take those materials and start pitching this.
We're thinking about the voices and who can replicate or, bring new life to some of these characters. And so we would welcome Ryan Reynolds.
Or fun cameos too.
Yeah.
So we're hoping within, in the fall, start pitching this, hopefully land an interested broadcaster. Typically a development deal, you're looking at about a year of back and forth with the broadcaster, trying to get it to somewhere where they feel like it's ready to go. And then you get your production order if all goes well. So we're still looking at a bit of a road here, but an exciting step is having all this art and getting the word out there that we're trying to make this happen.
Oat milk, 2% soy. The milk options are endless. But as raw milk sees a resurgence in some areas, a warning from health professionals here after the break in our live bi-weekly medical column. Thanks for joining our commercial-free live stream tonight. After more than a decade of filming in Vancouver, the CW's Arrowverse TV series has wrapped up. The series has employed thousands of BC workers, but as Janella Hamilton tells us, many are worried about their next gig because the writers' strike has made productions more scarce.
Don't you want to die holding them when the world ends?
Vancouver-born actor Osric Chow has played many different roles on the CW's Arrowverse television series. He credits the long-running franchise for kickstarting his career.
That became kind of the bedrock of my career, my circle of friends, like the ethos of everything I want to do and achieve. It kind of really stems from what those shows kind of did.
Best known for his role as Kevin Tran on the CW's Supernatural, a show that filmed in the Lower Mainland for 15 years. He went on to play the role of Ryan Choi before suiting up as the superhero, the Atom.
Hey, nice threads. Thanks, man. We've had so many breakout stars that started their careers on these shows, from Vancouver, from Canada.
It's not just the actors. The longevity of the Arrowverse series fueled the local industry and economy for years, hiring thousands of BC workers.
Those shows created
incredible amounts of spin-off benefits for the economy and long-term jobs.
Until 2022, when the CW canceled or ended about 10 productions, many of which were filmed here in BC. CBC News reached out to the company to find out why the drop in productions. They did not respond by deadline. Add to that 11,000 Hollywood screenwriters walking off the job in May. Now the guild representing U.S. screen actors is preparing picket signs if a deal cannot be reached later this week.
A lot of the production here in BC is U.S. production, so if the American writers are on strike, it's having an impact on the shows.
The province's film and TV industry already experiencing a decrease in productions.
Let's say we have somewhere from 10 to 15 shows at some level of production right now. Normally this time of year it could be anywhere from 30 to 40. So obviously there's a slowdown. Obviously there's, people are concerned. They don't know where they're going to go next.
I'm curious to see what kind of productions will fill in the gaps left.
He hopes it means more Canadian shows and films will be able to fill that void. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Early this month, the state of Iowa started allowing small dairy producers to sell unpasteurized cow, goat, and sheep milk, with supporters of that decision saying that raw milk tastes better and is more nutritious. Unpasteurized or raw milk is illegal to sell in BC because it doesn't go through the same heating process that kills harmful bacteria like E. coli and Salmonella, meaning those who drink raw milk are at a higher risk of food poisoning and disease. Now, it is possible to get raw milk in BC if you own or co-own a milk-producing animal, but healthcare professionals do not recommend consumption. To explain why, Dr. Melissa Lem joins us live now in our biweekly medical health column. Dr. Lem, are you seeing an increase in the number of people wanting to consume unpasteurized dairy products?
Thankfully, Anita, the short answer is no. So that could be because my patients just aren't telling me, or could be because, as you mentioned, selling raw milk in Canada and in BC is illegal, which is obviously going to reduce supply. I think part of the increase in demand for these products, though, especially south of the border, is the distrust in public health authorities that's grown during the COVID-19 pandemic. Anything that's regulated or recommended by the government or by public health, unfortunately, is going to make some people suspicious, even if it is a safe and healthy your choice.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that with a lot of products for sure. What are the dangers of consuming unpasteurized milk?
Well, believe it or not, unpasteurized milk is actually one of the world's most dangerous foods. So it causes 3 times more hospitalizations than any other source of foodborne disease. And over the past 2 decades in North America, thousands of infections with E. coli, Listeria, or Salmonella, including even some hospitalizations and even deaths, particularly in children and pregnant people, have been caused by raw milk products, especially in states in the U.S. where those sales are legal. That said, food regulators have been pretty good overall at keeping our food system safe for a long time. But as a result, many people don't know what it's like for someone they know to get seriously ill from food, so they're more willing to take risks.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, because one of the big appeals for unpasteurized products is the lack of preservatives. But in Canada, milk doesn't actually have preservatives, hormones, steroids, none of that. So would there actually be any benefit for people here?
Well, let's talk about some of those health claims raw milk aficionados make. So first of all, those people say that pasteurization destroys some nutrients like vitamins, calcium, and enzymes, but scientific analyses show that they have pretty much the same nutritional profile. Some people also claim that pasteurized milk causes conditions like autism, allergies, and asthma. And I totally understand that people want to do what's best for their families, but there's no scientific data backing up these risks. Overall, I would say I agree with Health Canada that it's not worth the risk to buy raw milk because we have lots of nutritious alternatives, not to mention the fact that there are lots of cultures around the world who don't consume dairy products at all.
Now, this is just one of hundreds of food trends that have gained steam because of social media. How do you suggest people safely navigate these trends, especially, again, given that a lot of the content comes from the States, but overall, Canada's food regulations are far tighter?
Well, first of all, I would say use common sense. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Second of all, trust the science. When Health Canada makes a recommendation, it's typically backed up by lots of research. And then last but not least, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask a health professional like a doctor or a registered dietitian.
Dr. Melissa Lim, thank you.
Thanks, Anita.
Public servants and retirees on hold for hours after a switch in insurance companies leaves them wondering if coverage will come through. More on their concern and frustration after the break.
Another summer day on the beach in Vancouver. On days like this, unless you're a podiatrist, you likely don't pay much attention to people's feet or what's on them. If you did, you'd find various types of summer footwear, runners, sandals, etc. But you would also find, on the fashion conscious, sole suckers, the latest in topless footwear. Ross Judge hopes they will make him a lot of money. He's the importer, and people even stop him on the street to ask him about his topless shoes.
It's all he wears, 12 hours a day.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you can just lay in the sun with them on too,
No,
I suppose.
no problem.
Because then you wouldn't burn the bottom of your feet.
Sole suckers don't really suck at all. They stick. Adhesive on the little suckers sticks to your foot. If they get dirty, you wash them off and they're ready to go again. Sole suckers last about 6 months, ideal for the pro tanning tour. No more tan lines on the feet. Ross Judge has sold about 7,000 pairs in Vancouver in the past month or so, and he hopes the fad will really catch on.
They're the best thing to come along in footwear in years. They're so comfortable you wouldn't believe it. It's just a matter of clean, dry feet, clean, dry sandals, and you're off for the whole day.
Of course, sole suckers aren't for everyone. Even one of Judge's best friends won't be caught dead in a pair, and she's extremely fashion conscious.
15,000 people started their march at the foot of the test strip for the new transit system, the pride of the Bennett government. They were from every group and from every union, having come together to protest against the new Human Rights Bill, the new Tenants Act, and the bill on the public sector. Along with others, these three bills are perceived as opening the door to discrimination.
Social credit is a social disease.
Some people we interviewed were afraid to give their names for fear of reprisals. Can you give me your name, please?
I'd rather not.
Why not? Well,
I have a nice job. I would prefer to keep it.
But one man did not care who knew how angry he was.
And he won't tell the people what his program was before the election. This man belongs in jail. He's a criminal. He lied to people.
The people, united, will never be defeated.
They gathered at the foot of the new covered stadium, another project of which the Socreds are so proud.
Fundamental human
The recently fired director of the Human Rights Branch, Hannah Jansen, swore to keep on fighting.
We want equality and dignity for all. Human rights are not for sale.
Meanwhile, overhead, a lone demonstrator threw a banner against those below.
We have this message for Bill Bennett.
Jack Monroe apologized for calling Bill Bennett quite a few names in the past. Well, he sort of apologized.
That if you walk like a duck and you quack like a duck, you're probably a duck. God damn it.
This is only the first demonstration. There already are 2 more planned for next week in Victoria. The summer in British Columbia promises to be long and hot. Georges Tremel, CBC News, Vancouver.
There's frustration and worry among many federal public servants and retirees. It comes after more than 1 million healthcare plans were switched over to a new administrator this month. As Kimberly Molina reports, the transition has been anything but smooth.
Here we go again, dear.
Yeah. Here we go again. What time is it? Okay, so it's 4:45.
Thank you for calling Canada Life, servicing members of the public service, healthcare, and dental care plans.
Doreen and Stephen Hartling have heard that message dozens of times in the past week. And what comes next?
Our service representatives are temporarily unavailable due to higher than normal call volume.
It's an experience his former assistant deputy minister can't contain her frustration over.
I said to my husband this morning, I said, oh, I can't believe it. I'm getting that same stupid message. How many times are they going to hang up on me?
Hartling has also tried to log into the website numerous times, but keeps experiencing a similar roadblock. She's worried about when it comes time to refill an $1,800 medication.
If the pharmacy says it was denied, where do they go? Who do they call? The people that aren't answering the phone? It's like...
Some 1.7 million public service workers, retirees, and their dependents saw their health insurance plan switch to Canada Life on July 1st. Since then, we've heard from dozens of people who say they're facing similar problems, including being denied coverage or trouble trying to get through to anyone at Canada Life. The company is one of the largest insurance providers in the country. But when the public service healthcare plan switched from Sun Life to Canada Life, the company says it was still a massive undertaking, causing its website to crash momentarily and a big jump in call volume. In a statement to CBC, Canada Life says it's trying to boost staffing to handle the increased call volumes, and it apologized to members for any inconvenience this has caused. The company says its goal is to get wait times down to under a minute.
And it gives us a message that...
But for some, it all feels a bit like déjà vu.
I don't know. I don't know where we're going to go from here. It's sort of looking like it might turn into another Phoenix issue. Just a large government project that went awry right off the bat.
Kimberly Molina, CBC News, Ottawa.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is now in Lithuania for a 2-day NATO summit.
We're expanding our embassy in Riga, and we're officially establishing a Canadian embassy in Lithuania here in Vilnius, as well as a Canadian embassy in Estonia.
During a stop in Latvia, the Prime Minister signed an agreement on increasing Canada's military contribution to a NATO-led mission there. It will eventually involve as many as 2,200 Canadian troops, help with weaponry and cyber activities, and cost $2.6 billion over 3 years. Starting tomorrow, Trudeau and other NATO leaders will discuss a plan to boost military spending to 2% of each alliance member's GDP. And in India, there are accusations that the government is trying to erase history by removing some touchy subjects from textbooks used by students across the country. Salima Shivji has more on the controversy.
It's a book he knows very well. This professor was part of the team of scholars who drafted the high school political science textbook. But now he wants nothing to do with it because of changes made unilaterally, he says.
What should be given to our youth and young is being denied. So that's the pain. It is not about our names. It is about what could be possible.
He and more than 30 other professors penned an open letter asking for their names to be removed from site after numerous chapters were deleted. The textbooks were once the source of pride for us, but are now a source of embarrassment, other colleagues wrote. It's a textbook that's been used for years in more than 20,000 schools across India and countless tutoring classes like this one. But the changes made quietly by an independent body under the Federal Education Ministry have fueled accusations of the government erasing history to further a specific ideological view.
An entire section on Gujarat riots has been deleted. Now we know in the context of the present regime, what does Gujarat riot 2002 mean?
The deadly communal riots that killed hundreds of Muslims are a touchy subject for the current BJP government. They happened under Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's watch, when he was the state's top leader. Other topics dropped are a chapter on Mughal history, when a Muslim dynasty ruled over India, and paragraphs on attempts by extreme Hindu nationalists to assassinate Mahatma Gandhi.
Controversies over history being edited out of textbooks are not new in India. It's happened under different governments. This time, the group in charge of the changes defended the move, saying it's not about content. It's a way to lighten the academic load on students after the pandemic.
Still the part of NCERT.
This tutor thinks that's reasonable.
Mughals are overrepresented in our history books, and to avoid that repetition, they have removed few chapters. It will help students because the content is reduced.
That argument leaves Jain dejected, but he has no regrets over speaking out.
Saying that we do feel perturbed is also, I think, a responsibility as a teacher, as a citizen.
And as a parent, wanting his school-age kids to get an accurate account of a not-so-distant past. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Up next, a deep dive into the world of sea mining. One BC company says a rock at the bottom of the ocean is vital for green tech, but environmentalists have concerns.
Talk about a rare sight this summer in Wood Islands, a ferry loading up with passengers, some of them surprised to even be here.
I had heard from a lot of locals that they heavy doubt that it would be running. Finally got confirmation like an hour ago that we're running, so we're happy not to do the drive.
Been checking the website just to make sure it was still happening, and we had the plan B was obviously to go around, which would take longer but was doable, so it's happy that it worked out.
The MV Confederation, the only ferry running so far this summer, has for the most part not been running at all. In mid-June, a mechanical issue put it out of commission for 2 weeks. It was repaired, ran for a day and a half, and then was hit with another mechanical issue. It just got fixed over the weekend after a part arrived from Europe.
We did our very best at NFL to expedite that as quickly as we could, and the part came in to Halifax International Airport on Saturday night, and we transported it over to Prince Edward Island early Sunday morning, and then worked through the day on Sunday to rectify the deficiency on the Confederation. And we were out on sea trials this morning, and we've fixed the issue.
A relief after weeks of lost business for Northumberland ferries and others that rely on the traffic. The owner of this takeout right by the ferry terminal says locals have kept this place busy. Still, she says this is a welcome sight.
It was certainly a lot of ups and downs. Yay, oh no, yay, oh no. But it's such a relief, and eastern end of the island really needs this.
And another promising sign, this second ferry on loan from Quebec arrived this morning. It'll double the number of round-trip crossings each day from 4 to 8. Though it's not clear exactly when this second ferry will be added into the schedule, officials say it'll happen no later than this coming Saturday, but that they're working hard to get it up and running sooner than that.
So we have some more dock fits and we have some more crew training to do over the next couple of days, and we should be into service with the Surima no later than the 15th of July. We're trying to hurry as quickly as we can, and if it's sooner than that, we'll announce it.
In the meantime, Northumberland Ferry says it is doing an internal review to see if there's any more it can do to lower the risk of another major disruption. Steve Bruce, CBC News, Wood Islands.
Land Back is a CBC original podcast where we uncover land theft in Canada and look at how Indigenous people are taking it all back. Land Back is out now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
People in parts of New England and upstate New York are bracing for more flash floods tonight. The northeastern U.S. has been hit with a torrent of heavy rain. It's been blamed for at least one death. Sasha Petrusik has more on what used to be considered a rare event that's becoming more common.
It's up to my knees.
Up the Hudson River from New York City, creeks, roads, and gullies turn to raging torrents.
Oh my God.
Sweeping away a 35-year-old woman in the village of Highland Falls as rescuers struggle to get others out of danger. Rain pounded the U.S. Northeast Sunday, some 25 centimeters falling in just a few hours.
I've been up here 7 years. This is the first time I ever had seen this happen.
I just watched my car just swim away.
A deluge described as a once-in-a-thousand-year rainfall in some areas. In Vermont, they braced for another huge rainfall, with crews arriving from other states and warnings to stay back.
It may seem benign, but there could be washouts underneath, or the current could be very strong, and it can sweep a car away.
More than 10 million Americans remained under flood watches and warnings Monday from Maine to Virginia. In Orange County, New York, they're under a state of emergency.
My friends, this is the new normal. These are unprecedented weather events that keep hitting us over and over and over again. So we must change our behavior as a planet, as a country, as a state.
And not just because of flooding. Arizona had that too earlier this year. Now it struggles with heat and fires. Extreme weather from one end of the U.S. to the other. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
And Russ, I know even though this is really far away, sometimes these systems are connected to things that are happening here. Is that the case this time?
This one is an entirely different animal, Anita, and yet there is a familiar ingredient that is a key element in the storms that are going on in Vermont and New York right now. And I wanted to show you that momentarily here. The big weather story, of course, south of the border over about the past, 10 to 14 days has been the record-breaking heat waves all across Texas. That high, that upper high, has been a near stationary feature, and the circulation around that high has been drawing up these plumes of subtropical moisture around the high, drifting down across parts of the south and central states. There have been some pockets of heavy thunderstorms in areas like Colorado, Oklahoma, as well as into Kansas. There's some flash flood warnings for those areas too, but the subtropical moisture has the capacity to carry so much water with it. Watch the jet stream round the bend and encounter the low that is moving over the northeastern seaboard into Quebec. Widespread heavy rain in parts of the eastern seaboard, widespread heavy rain now moving into Quebec as well. Have a look at some of the latest weather reports in and around Quebec, and they are getting hammered by rain. And around here, it's air mass convection. We've got some scattered thunderstorms everywhere. We talked earlier about some of the lingering weather warnings and advisories that we're still watching. They're in effect primarily for this evening. I really doubt that we're going to see so much as a single heat warning left over for tomorrow. Right now, there's one heat warning left over for the Thompson district. I think temperatures province-wide are coming down by 2 to 6 degrees, give or take. So heat warnings should be a thing of the past. Severe weather in terms of severe thunderstorm watches. Maybe it's a borderline call. We've got them in effect right now, but by this time tomorrow, I think taking the edge off the heat, we likely will see some scattered thunderstorms, nothing quite as severe as what we've experienced for the past couple of days. So here's your forecast tomorrow. We've got some scattered thunderstorms into the central interior. They're into the northeast as well, parts of the Peace. They're even showing up through the Thompson region, into the Okanagan, even into the Kootenays. But I don't think they're as numerous. I don't think they're quite as intense, and we'll see if we see any severe storm warnings issued. Your Metro Vancouver forecast for the next 7 days, breezy, cloudy, coolish. Yes, there might be some sprinkles tomorrow, confined to the morning, confined to areas over higher terrain and inland in the valley. But it's a change of pace once again, keeping it cool for a couple of days, really warming up before we get to the weekend. Anita, near 30 degrees again by the weekend.
All right, back at it. Thanks, Russ.
You're welcome.
Well, black rock containing minerals vital to electric vehicles is scattered across the Pacific Ocean. And a BC mining company says they are essential for a clean future. But as the CBC's Susan Ormiston explains, environmentalists say this could cause critical damage.
Far out in the Pacific Ocean, the hidden gem is exploring deep to the bottom of the sea to harvest black rocks. The gems in a new green rush for minerals.
Everything you need to build an EV battery cathode is in here. I mean, it's an amazing mix of metals that are just made for this time we find ourselves in.
The plan is to drop a collector 4 kilometers down to vacuum up the rocks formed over millions of years and layered with minerals called polymetallic nodules. And a Canadian-registered mining company is first in line to try to do it.
Hi, Jared.
Hi, Susan.
Gerard Barron is the hard-driving CEO and chairman of the metals company, an Australian pitching a mining venture that he says will help save the planet. We caught up with him in Los Angeles.
What we need are base metals that we can build batteries and build the wind turbines and the solar panels so we can move away from fossil fuels and address climate change.
But he's heading into stormy waters. Last November, TMC did extensive trials with its partner Allseas, sending the collector to the ocean floor.
What you'll see if you go down there, 4,200 meters, is a collection of these nodules just lying there like golf balls on a driving range. This one in my hand is about 4 million years old. And today they're still forming.
Highly valuable because of their concentrations of nickel and copper with cobalt and manganese.
Let's get busy and think about how we turn this tremendously successful pilot into commercial production ready. And that's what we're doing now.
But here's the battle. There's no commercial mining permitted yet in the area called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, or CCZ. Lying roughly between Mexico and Hawaii and covering 4.5 million square kilometers. Multiple countries and companies hold exploration licenses across the zone, except for the protected areas in yellow. The International Seabed Authority, which regulates international waters, is trying to write a mining code regulations to be endorsed by its members, including Canada. But a rule triggered this July means approvals are potentially closer than ever, and TMC, with sponsor countries Nauru and Tonga, is preparing. So how much mining are you proposing?
We know that on those two blocks we have around 1.6 billion tons of these very same rocks. Billion tons.
On just your two areas?
That's right. It's enough to electrify the entire North American light passenger fleet.
Meaning nearly every car in America. That's the sell. But deep sea mining is facing broad opposition.
We're here to deliver this message to your company, which is set to cause huge and irreversible harm.
With negotiations heating up this July, critics are lining up. Over 700 marine scientists and policy experts signed a letter saying we strongly recommend the exploitation of mineral resources be paused. Europe's Science Advisory Council echoed the warning. We should pause to reflect instead of rushing to an early decision that will later be regretted. You have said that the debate over deep sea mining is over. It's done.
That's right.
Those are fighting words to your critics.
What we should be debating here is not whether it should happen or shouldn't happen. We should be debating about the strong regulations, the strong environmental controls.
For me, using deep sea mining to help fight the climate crisis is like smoking to lower stress.
Diva Amon has gone deep in the CCZ zone as a marine researcher. She signed the scientist's letter.
Many of the animals here rely on these nodules as a home to attach to, something to shelter under. Without the nodules being there, they would cease to exist. People do have this idea of a dark, barren, desolate place that the deep sea is, but actually it's so far from that. There are thousands upon thousands of species that live there, as we said, many of them new to science. It looks like something from a Dr. Seuss novel.
Deep sea mining, she argues, will scrape the bottom of the sea, churn up sediment, and create noise.
It's thought that the top 10 centimeters of the seafloor will be impacted and very much disturbed. A lot of that sediment is actually going to create these sort of plumes, kind of like dust storms, if you will. And then on top of that, there's going to be noise and light in these ecosystems that are incredibly quiet and quite dark.
Our harvester is electric, and there's no drilling, there's no digging, there's no blasting, because these nodules literally lie on the ocean floor. Our job is to collect them. The sediment plume only rises about 2 meters above the seafloor, and up to 98% of it settles in the test area.
TMC says it spent $150 million on scientific research to create an environmental impact assessment, with the results to be uploaded to an open database. So you're saying there's lots more fish in the sea, so to speak, of the same type, so we can risk disturbing some to collect these nodules?
There is no such thing as zero impact, and we have never ever said this is zero impact. What we have said is that the impacts are a fraction compared to the alternatives.
Well, there's zero impact if you don't mine at all.
No, but that's not the way to think about this, because that's turning a blind eye to land-based mining.
Demand for minerals is exploding. Indonesia supplies more than half the nickel globally, and to grow, it's bulldozing more rainforests, home to a rich biodiversity.
By 2030, you can expect that every other car you see, every third car on the road will easily be an electrified car.
Josipa Petrunic is a transport consultant in Toronto.
We're talking about millions and millions of cars in the next few years and decades.
To meet decarbonization, the world will still need 19 times more nickel than it does today.
The end result is mining is dirty. Like, there's no pretty picture to mining, whether it's under the water or it's above ground. And our question to ourselves as Canadians or internationally is, how much destruction are we willing to accept in the interest of decarbonizing?
Canada is under pressure. Greenpeace recharging its campaign in Ottawa, demanding the government use its influence to resist seabed mining.
We know more about the moon than we know about the international seabed.
Catherine Coumans works with Mining Watch Canada.
The reason they want to mine the deep sea bed is not to protect the Earth from climate change. They want to mine the deep sea bed because they want to make a profit. And it's very hard for Canada, a mining country, to say no to mining companies.
What would happen if the Canadian government decided to buck or oppose your business plan?
I hope that's a situation that never arises. And for that reason, I've never had to spend much time thinking about it.
He may have to now. Canada announced late Monday it's supporting an interim moratorium. We spoke to Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson.
There's a lot more science that needs to be done before Canada would be prepared to support regulations that would enable deep sea mining.
So is that saying we are okay with it as long as we get the right science?
It's not no forever. It may well be that after we accumulate the science, that we actually make a decision that this can be done in a certain way, perhaps in certain places, but I'm not going to prejudge that.
What's the news coming in?
Gerard Barron is pressing on, pitching to potential investors, admitting there's not much love out there from his critics. I mean, you've got haters out there, wouldn't you agree?
Of course, yes.
So if that noise, as you call it, becomes a bellow and convinces the International Seabed Authority or others to pause or stop, then you're in trouble.
I would rate that as a 0.1 of 1% chance.
But the stakes at sea could not be higher. And TMC is not the only company lining up for a green light to mine the deep.
It's one of the biggest events in Nanaimo's calendar. Hundreds of athletes were in the city over the weekend for 2 days of dragon boat racing, and they were doing it for a good cause. More on that event after the break.
So what made me venture out to the burn area here in Hammonds Plains and Tantallon was cover the damage that's been done, and hopefully at the same time illustrate a little bit of beauty in this absolute chaos that consumed the area in my own way. And I find it very, very challenging to work with such a different landscape than what I'm used to, like say, dramatic coastline at sunset. That kind of setting is generally what I gravitate towards, but this being completely different is a huge challenge. I know photography is important because we need to capture what we see. Even in our daily lives, you can find some form of beauty if you take the time and look closely. That's when you'll start to pay attention and pick out little small details that maybe appeal to you, or it might appeal to someone else that's looking at your photograph. So I've visited the burn area about, this will be my 6th time coming out, and many people have kind of been a little skeptical of me capturing the damage, but I don't want to draw any attention to the homes that have been lost because there's so much emotion, for obvious reasons, tied to that. So I'm focusing on the landscape, so we can show how much damage has been done and hope that, as well appreciate what's been lost. I enjoy the challenge of capturing different landscapes during different times of the day, and at the same time trying new techniques. And I find it very inspiring, and it also tests me to compose different scenes in an artistic way. It looks like there's a small sapling poking out of the forest floor here. It certainly wasn't here the last time I visited. Let's get down for a closer look here. Look at that. Well, I'll return a number of times just to document the changes that we're seeing and return specific spots a few times so we can see that progression of what life is returning to the area.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
CBC Vancouver is the premier media partner of the 2023 Surrey Fusion Festival, July 22nd and 23rd. Visit the festive cultural pavilions, enjoy free live music and family activities, and make sure you drop by the CBC tent for your chance to win CBC swag. And the Herb Original is a new CBC British Columbia podcast. Stream it today on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you can't beat 'em, eat 'em. That's a suggested solution for the invasive European green crab.
It's kind of tricky. They're a lot of work for the little bit of meat that they have, but you can use them in things like bisques and things like that. But there is no fishery for them here on the coast, so they're not really identified as a food item in Canada yet, but technically they are edible.
The European green crab has been out-competing native predators off the west coast of Vancouver Island for decades. On the eastern seaboard in the U.S., where it's been a problem for much longer, experts say there should be commercial fisheries to catch and sell the tiny crabs for food. Currently, Fisheries and Oceans Canada has not approved commercial licenses for green crabs in this country. Well, this past weekend, Nanaimo's Dragon Boat Festival celebrated its 20th anniversary. As Claire Palmer tells us, more than 1,000 athletes gathered for 2 days of racing.
It's an event that racers look forward to all year.
So in terms of the diversity and growth of dragon boating, it is a growing sport on Vancouver Island, and it's great to see 44 teams here this year, and a record number of women's teams, so 33 women's teams and 11 mixed teams. And so it's a great community builder as well.
An important part of the festival centers on highlighting breast cancer survivors. There's a carnation ceremony, survivors dinner, and more to honor these survivors. Angels Abreast is a Nanaimo-based team made up of survivors.
Knowing that you're not alone, you know, that there, and the fact that you are able to paddle, well, you feel the power within you, and that this cancer doesn't mean it's the end of it.
No. The carnation ceremony puts it in perspective. It isn't just about going out there and winning. We actually get to honor the people who have been in a situation, and look at them. They're out there paddling.
This year's carnation ceremony honored Jane Frost. She passed away in early June.
It was very important for us to have our ceremony in memory of Jane Frost, who was a member of the original Abreast in a Boat. And she really was the forefront of getting women survivor teams all over the world.
The Dragon Boat Festival is the first of 3 Nanaimo Marine Festival events this month. The Silly Boat Regatta and bathtub races are set to take place later this month. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
What a great event. And Dragon Boat always gets people of all ages, all sorts out for fun times. Awesome stuff. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. That is the end of our show. We will see you tomorrow.